a nonsense French word. Il faut qu'on fait qu'il faut qu'on fait, and apparently for the French it means nonsense, making nonsense, because that's what the French are known for: cheese, wine, and nonsensical satire. And I like the pivot points in these sorts of things. Like, where does the crustacean grow? I find it forms over time, like most things. It is sort of a gradual accretion. And I think that rapid accretions shock people. And not in a good way, not like those things that you tie to your crotch. The other person has the little button for. No, like shock as in alarm. Not a good thing. People, when they're alarmed, do things they shouldn't do, like accrete, and then they start forming not just foundational concepts to their worldview, but truly like the liminal boundaries of that worldview corrugate, right? And in those indentations, it's like if you had a map of England, it would be so far around if it was 1 foot for every inch. But if you got it to where it was 1 foot for every millimeter, it would be bigger around. And if you got it so it was 1 foot to every micrometer, it would be even bigger around. And the width, the circumference of the island of England becomes closer to infinity, the greater resolution at which you measure the small jiggles at the end. You could add hundreds of miles to the coastline of England just by measuring the little dips and crannies with a finer and finer and finer tooth comb. And if you get down to the microscopic level, there's truly no end to the corrugation. It feeds in on itself in a truly fractal pattern. This was something that Mandelbrot, sorry, or maybe it's Mandelbrot. I only read in books, but this guy was onto something, because he knew if you took a fish backwards by the same amount of time it took to get it forwards, it would actually invert itself forward through time in a sort of phased diffusion that would go outwards from the fish, yes, but also inwards towards. And that is what he never found out, because of the mathematical singularity of the calculations broke down. The closer, it's like if you draw closer to infinity, you actually get further away from it. And by the same property, if you get further away from this fish, you're actually closer to its inside. And so that's the morning that the corrugation began to pulse. And I was like, oh no, it's accreting. And the clones, see what they do? It isn't like you or me. Like when we go fishing, we have to use a line, but the clones don't work that way. They use as we were talking about the energy that from within the fish, they can use that energy in inverse to pull the fish towards them. No lines. So this is what I was looking at. This is what I had to look forward to. You see, like a week potentially of these corrugations filling out, and then these clones just dropping out of the gaps, which seem small. But remember what I said about England? They're actually approaching infinity. So there's any number of these clones could accrete. And so it's like, great. First the fish, now the clones. And I know they're going to use the power of the fish to pull themselves. It just as they can pull the fish to them, they could double invert their power and pull themselves to the fish. And this is why I've stayed away from bodies of water. I've had a few cups of water, but I made sure they were freshly poured, and I did change the filter recently on the fridge. So I know this water has not had time for fish to evolve. I'm sure no evolution needs to take place because bacteria already exist. I'm sure they're evolving too, but most bacteria are filtered out. Bacteria are too small. They do not have the energy. They don't call nexuses is not the word. Nexi sounds wrong. It might be right though. That's what they are. Whether that's the word you want to use, that's the meaning. A nexus is a single point at which all things join, and the nexi, as I'm calling it, I don't want to call them nexuses. I don't call them nexuses, even though that's like vertices. Okay, so let's call them nexuses. Okay, these are multiple locations through which everything passes that themselves. They're like meta nexus. It's the nexus of all nexuses. But the thing is, they're different from a meta nexus because in a cluster of these necrocies are able to connect to the ends of the other ones, yes, but also the beginnings, so you don't actually have to pass through them to get to the other side, which is key, because this is the way in which the accreted clones have been able to move from point to point. Because otherwise, I mean, as you can clearly see, I'm not inundated with clones at the moment. Where are they going? I can begin to see how someone of firm conscience could doubt my words, and I apologize for that because I didn't explain. Oh, Christ, I didn't explain it until the end. Hopefully, those of you who stuck with me, hopefully now understand. I'm sure you do. Any clear-headed, clear, level-headed, clear individual will clearly see that this is very clear, right? I mean, you're seeing that, and I'm seeing it too. I'm seeing it right now, actually. Hold on a second. Okay, it's gone. I was worried there because I've been getting these temporarily visual. God, I can't even talk. I'm so scared about these clones. Temporary visual disturbances, right? And they're not really disturbances like, you think of a disturbance and then the police tell you you have to stop. No, what this is different. Okay, this is like a break. That's a good word for it. It is a temporary short break in my normal processing of information. Of what do you want to call it? Not information. No, it's thinking. Thinking is how you process information. Perception, processing of perceptual inputs. But what do those perceptual inputs consist of if not information? Well, I don't believe that they do. I believe they consist of real stimuli. I believe our perceptual inputs are not mere information. The inputs are actual stimuli, actual real world reference. What we perceive, the perception then takes these inputs and renders them into our thoughts. That's what I believe. I do believe that. So I don't want to be unclear. Clarity is what I seek and strive for. No. So during these breaks, my visual perception, I believe it is not a change in my processing of the information. I believe what it is a change in the actual external referent that is transmitting the information that my perceptual senses are receiving. I do not believe it is a purely mental break in my senses. My senses. And there are key reasons why I believe this. One is the sense of smell. Sense of smell is a key trigger, a key indicator that what you are experiencing is coming from a neurological place rather than a factual base. And I don't mean this that if you smell bacon, there's no bacon. Okay, I'm talking about unique, pungent, sharp, sudden, and multi-textural smells that are unlike ordinary smells. You will know this if you smell them. Michael Crichton in the book Terminal Man character smells these before going into seizure fugue states, and they describe the smell as pig shit dipped in turpentine. And I replicated this experiment at the age of 9. It was very difficult to find the pig shit, much easier to find the turpentine. Didn't smell good, and I knew I'd never smelled that before. I knew I never smelled it before, so I knew I was quite sane. So to ensure that I was sane, I continued smelling it for 4 hours, and then when I woke up, I was in the hospital. And this is how I knew it worked, because the doctors told me there was something wrong with my brain now. And what had I just smelled? But the same smell Michael Crichton described. And I mean, I was only 9, right? And already I was seeing through the bullshit. I was seeing to the core of what it means to be a fish, which is how I knew about the clones. So it was a difficult childhood, because not only did I have to deal with stress and pressures of school and all that stuff that every other kid has to do, volleyball camp, things like that. I had to deal with the stress of knowing that I was already embarking on a lifelong journey into the liminal spaces of our mental confines, and what could come crawling out of the darkness, what could come crawling out of those deep fissures in the mind that all humanity tries to paper over. We put little carpets over them, and then we're shocked when we fall through like a trap on Scooby-Doo. This is what we have to work with, my friends. So we do. And I went right to work. Instantly, I implemented 4 hours was too much for me at 9. 4 hours is too much for me at 9. I had to work up to that over time. instantly implemented daily pig shit and turpentine regimens. And oh my God, do you know how hard it is for a 9, 10, 11, even a 12-year-old to acquire a steady supply of pig shit? You know what? You know what people ask when you buy turpentine when you're 9? They ask what you need it for. I said, who said I need it? I don't have to need something to buy it, do I? I'm an American. They're like, as a kid, you just buy a gallon of this stuff every month. Where do you get the money? I'm like, oh, now you're, if the government came and asked you these questions, you would be protesting in the street. But you come up to, he didn't come up to me. I was trying to buy the turpentine. This was, when I was a kid, you couldn't just subscribe to turpentine on Amazon. The world has changed. And I've changed along with it, believe me. I subscribe to my turpentine now. Pig shit's a different story, but you can get that stuff. You can get sterilized horse manure online in little bags. Did you know that? You can dip that in turpentine if you want, but it doesn't work. The turpentine can only take you so far. No, badger shit works best. And you know how long it... that's a freebie. That's a freebie, guys. 15 years. Took me to find that out. 15 years testing mammalian waste. It felt like a waste until that 15th year. And I discovered badger shit. Do you understand? That's how progress can feel from the inside. Believe me, at year 5, 7, 9, 12, 13, 14, did I question what I was doing with my time? Squirrel shit. Nope, I have these Excel sheets. I haven't had to open them in years. Oh. It's not like it started out in WordStar or anything. It wasn't that. It started out Microsoft Notepad. No, if I really had the gift, I would have started in Microsoft Edit. But I didn't see. I just kept going with pig shit. And then as I got a little older, I was like, why am I trusting Michael Crichton in 1972 or whatever so much with this? It was just a throwaway line in a book that wasn't even that good. Even worse movie. 9 years old. Had my family special order the movie from a video thing. There, because it was a book I read. My parents didn't know what I read. And there's strip malls and hacking, murder, and chopping. It was a made-for-TV quality movie. I can't believe one of the foundational practices of my beliefs, the mammalian feces and turpentine combination, came from such a whimsical place. But sometimes it's like that, The heart leads. There's some wisdom built into us all. And, some people follow negative ends and they do destructive things with their life, play sports, they try to go to bowling leagues. There's got to be something besides sports they do, but I don't really know. When I identify what some cults, like I've said this before, some cults call them suppressive persons, but when you're just a lone wolf kind of spiritual seeker and you're not being led by some dictatorial guru, I don't really think of them as suppressive people. They're just people. They don't mean to suppress, but they do have that effect. So I have steered well clear, and you best believe me, of folk like that. People, other people. That's what I'm trying to say. It's difficult to keep away from my family as a child, but I did get older. Began to accrue certain responsibilities, but also certain privileges. But yeah, the squirrel shit didn't do much. Then there was this fruitless 4-year period. I was riding high off the discovery of the badger feces. Then I got cocky. Started thinking I could mix up the turpentine. I was like, Michael Crichton was wrong about the pig shit. I mean, it did work, but it didn't. He was right about that. But you know what he wasn't right about, maybe? The turpentine. That's what I thought. I had gotten that cocky. 15 years starting to doubt myself, and then I succeeded. Of course I got cocky. I have as many faults as the next guy. Maybe not as many as the next guy. I've still got faults, you know. We all do, and if we can admit that, we can work through them. No, there is no substitute for Well, I don't want to say that because that's like not learning the lesson, right? I have not yet discovered a substitute for turpentine that works a third as well as turpentine. And after 4 years, I was like, this is defining my life. This search for the substitute that I might not even need. It wasn't like I was insufficiently, able to access these levels of experience without a substitute. And that's really, and that's another key lesson you can learn, if you're searching for a new plateau, a new level to get to, just because you think constant expansion is what must be done, that's a capitalist ideal, my friend. And it's unnecessary, unsustainable. It is, crisis is built into it, and it's pointless. What is the purpose of life? To constantly expand until you consume everything? Okay, congratulations, sir. You are a bacteria. And it doesn't work out for the bacteria either. They never grow to twice the size of the Earth in a 48-hour period. And neither will you. So don't try. So the turpentine was the bridge I had to die on to make that particular life lesson really come home. But so 15 years searching for the badger feces. Another 4 before I realized turpentine was as good as I was going to get. I'm sure with the advances in machine learning, you could feed all substances into a computer and say which is better than turpentine when you mix it with badger feces, and it would come out with an answer. But I think that's the low road. I think it's the fact that I experimented myself. It means that I had available to me with the feces is what gave me the breakthrough there. So all this is just a backstory to how I first became aware of the clones. And it was when I had worked back up well past 4 hours a day of the, I don't want to say huffing. See, this is the thing. Certain terms get defined by the opposition, and then if you use that term, you're just playing into what they're saying. And calling inhaling the fumes of badger feces and turpentine huffing, I don't know. That's like calling making love to your wife on your 20th wedding anniversary. Well, no, because that actually, I don't know what it's debased. I don't know what that would be like. But so I had a little bit of humble pie there when I realized I should just stick with turpentine. And then I was up to about 6 hours a day by then, And I was doing my automatic writing, and I experimented with typing it, but that didn't do anything. Anything with a planchette was just right out because I think it's very antiquated. I know that writing implements are at least as old or older than a planchette, but for that sort of thing, I just think it's a lot of hype. I think Milton Bradley played into that hype with their Ouija board nonsense, and I think they loved I think they just loved that it became this like fear thing that people were like, don't fuck with the Ouija board. It's scarier to frick with a possum than it is to mess with a Ouija board. I've tried. And those possums, they don't defecate on a regular schedule, for one. The shit doesn't work. They're like little furry reptiles. They're mean. Don't mess with possum. Badgers aren't nice. Okay? And they're very, very difficult to catch. You do have to catch a few badgers if you want to do what I do. I don't recommend doing what I do. It isn't like I'm so brave and I'm so great. It's just, if you don't think you're ready for the clones to form in the corrugations, then don't. It's like, if you don't want in that door, don't knock. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I don't know that I would have rushed into it full steam ahead if I had known what was in store for me. But I fairly confident that I would have been so restless if I hadn't explored this path. So I would have always felt like there was something missing, you know. I wonder if the clones feel the same way, you know. I mean, I know they're clones in one sense, but are they clones in every sense? If they were, no, they can't be. That's nonsense, because if they were clones in every sense, they would want exactly what I want, and they'd be here making this video right now. So it's all really kind of bullshit. When you start burning things to see what the smoke will spell, at first it doesn't. That's another way. It's like a sort of gatekeeping thing, because at first it doesn't really spell anything, and that's the trick. Is you stare at it and you're like, this is never going to spell anything, and as soon as you accept that it's never going to spell anything, it starts. But it depends on what you burn and where you burn it and all these different things, and like you have to have like not just a compass that says which direction. You need to have a precise compass. It's all about angles, and it helps if you have that Google sky map thing that shows you the constellations even if there's like cloud cover. Because if you don't have that, and you need two phones, because the only, unless you have like one of those navigator compass things, I've always wanted one of those, but then the one time I almost bought it, they were sold out, and then I just bought it. I'm not going to tell you what I bought instead, but I think it was the right decision. I can't give away all my secrets, but it's like you have either two phones, one running sky maps and one with the hypersensitive compass app, or you need to have one of those like navigator class compasses. Because if you don't get your angles right, it doesn't matter what you burn, you know? It's like it doesn't. And if you get your angles right, it almost doesn't matter what you burn. Like in the other way, you know what I mean? It's like you can burn something way less effective. And if your angles are just right and you're sure it's matched to the sky maps thing, it's going to be good. It's going to be a good experience for you if you've already made that mental leap that you aren't going to see the stuff and then it appears. Because if you, I mean, you can get everything else right, but it's like if you don't know that step, it's like, you know, when Doctor Strange in the first movie, they put him at the top of the mountain to get him to do his twirly swirlies because she figured if he was going to die, maybe he'd do it. It's like that. It's like, but you know, he could have done that without the funny ring thing too. So it's like you gotta have all these pieces at play, and they have to be in balance. You know, if it's like learning anything. You know, it's like learning anything. But you know, when the readings started to come through, I immediately saw the potential for clones to latch onto this, sort of like a Trojan horse. You know, it was like the back door was there. It was like a day zero exploit just sitting there. And I was like, well, that's great. You know, I didn't have any like things guiding me along this path. It's like opening your refrigerator door and seeing there's a lion inside and be like, okay, he's about to bite you. And you're like, I better take that into account then. I swear, I was to be a kid again. To think I was going to be able to start reading the smoke at multiple angles and there weren't going to be clones. Like, that's how innocent I was. A system which can create clones. Okay. God, what did I think I was going to see? But, you know, I saw a lot of other stuff, too. Thank God. If I hadn't, when those clones started dropping out of the corrugations, it's like the first drip, drip, drip of that accretion process, it would have been like, running down the street. But I was like, okay, I gotta think fast, because inherent in the system, the possibility for the accretion of clones was obvious. Like in any system that can develop something, the possibility of its destruction was obviously suggested by the same mechanism. So it was just a simple matter of realigning the harmonics. And, you know, when you align harmonics, You can get those, what do they call it? The binaural beats, slightly different frequencies in each ear. But, ears are one thing and angles are another thing, right? So it's like one ear's like this, one ear's like that for binaural beat. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Or frequency rather. One ear's this, one ear's that. But angles? Now, of course, there's 360 degrees. And then you could go, there's a XYZ rotational axis of those 360 degrees. So what's 360 times 360 times 360? That's something you're going to have to figure out, not mathematically, but honestly, perceptually. You have to become attuned to it, because you can't have harmonics unless you're in tune, right? Maybe you don't even know what I'm talking about. And that's your journey. If you want to follow in these footsteps, the path that can be spoken of is not the path that can be trod upon. And you're going to have to do some trotting, my friend. Trotting and trodding. I imagine those words share a common root and that people just misheard it or something. They're so similar. I mean, you can trot at a trot, but you can tread more slowly than a trot. You can tread as you rot. God. The problem is, the more clones that accrete, it's like you stuff one dead body under a building, maybe it just stinks a little. If you bury it deep enough, maybe it doesn't stink that bad at all. Start burying 20, 100. In this round, we're up to 400 something, and they're just dropping off. And they think that if they use that kind of fish pole to get out, that they can reverse the flow and get back in whenever they want. See, they don't want to live in our area. They just want to investigate and, if possible, take anything back, whether it's information or, energy that they pull from fish or other sources. I'm really worried. I'm afraid to even say this, but I know the clones can only speak backwards, and they do not have access to recording technology that would allow them to reverse my voice. I'm really worried that they'll make the leap to reptiles and birds, specifically Archosaurs, which at this point in time includes only crocodilians and birds, but they are not confined to this point in time. They cannot go forward. They can come only to the present moment as a limit, just like we all can, but unlike us, unlike you, or rather I'm capable of this when the angles are right, if the right burning substance is present and I'm in the right location, but I don't do it frequently because it's not safe. They are able, and I am in these select circumstances, they are able to do it whenever. There's no process involved for them. They exist at the present moment as a maximal limit, but every moment back as a option for them, in that they can travel freely up until now. And but their ability to affect the physical world, thankfully, is minimal. But they can. What I brought this up to say was, presently there are only crocodilians and birds in Archosaurian. That this was not always the case. I believe the intervening clade, the group, they're quite popular amongst people, and that would be dinosaurs. But also, I'm concerned that it might go deeper than Archosaurs, and that they might actually be able to target Synapses. And here's where it gets dicey. They can't do anything to physical objects or beings. But the Synapses were what led to mammals. They were the reptiles that evolved into us. This bump in our head is our lineage with the Synapses like Dimetrodon with its big sail on its back. Everyone knows. People think it's a dinosaur. It's actually probably furry. It was a scary half reptile, half mammalian being. And if they can get the clones can get their spiritual pinchers into not the actual biological fact, reality of like a Dimetrodon or other synapsid, but into the spiritual energy that AK like the fish. I mean, obviously, if it's spread to reptiles and birds, that's bad enough. If they go back and scoop up the dinosaurs, really bad. We're lucky the dinosaurs were wiped out, not just because they would have eaten all the mammals, not let us live, but that let's just say they're energy-based reasons why they could not live any longer. The universe had to make to make the equation balance, something had to give. And it's like the Beatles could only be a band for 7 years, and the dinosaurs, they charged up that battery for quite some time, well over 100 million years. But the harmonic resonance was getting to be too great. And you'll note it took almost 65 million years for that resonance to dissipate and reform with the cohesive bond that it had in the dinosaurian times. But on a more complex level that enabled, yes, us, but also led to the kind of rips and the tears to which this accretion process could begin. So, yes, I began to perceive this accretion process when I learned the smoke reading, but well before that, I had begun to participate in it in an inverse sense to manifest my spiritual energy enough to get to the point where I could be an accretion target. You see what I mean? It's like you have to go up through so many levels before you get targeted by the forces from higher up. It's just like I'm not trying to be insulting, but for you people, there's just simply no point. It's like a vampire that can only drink brilliance is not going to go to freaking somebody's house like Rob Schneider, right? It's like, why would I try to drink your mind? You're Rob Schneider. It would do me no good. It'd be like, I'm really thirsty. Let me go drink bat piss. I don't even know if bats piss. Their poop sure doesn't work. They may be mammals, but their poop. There's a reason those flying things leave splatty plops like that, and it doesn't mix with turpentine at all. It becomes, you soak a good badger feces in turpentine, it retains a sort of a fecal shape. Bat guano. Have you tried scraping up bat guano? It just becomes like a soup. Oh, I don't want to describe it. Well, at least I know. Only on 5 occasions have I had to ingest the feces and turpentine concoction. And those were extreme cases. Thankfully, none of them involves the guano. God. Think back to nights I had just like this one with a massive accretion forming, knowing that tomorrow is just going to be nonstop work. All the Excel files are going to be humming off the bat. Off the bat. Oh my God, it's true. Off the bat. It was when I got off the bat, Guano, that I first realized the retaliatory gesture had inherent in itself its own defeat. You see, how I first started to defeat or attempt to defeat the clones was actually completely backwards. It's intuitive, but that's how they get you. That's how these whole processes, that's why most people, we haven't solved the meaning of life 100 years ago or a million. It's because they're shockingly counterintuitive. And just when you begin to understand how counterintuitive they truly are, right? then the layers of intuitivity blossom. They expand exponentially, logarithmically. And so you have to be 18 steps ahead of yourself, inverting your intuition at every turn. It's like if they had a prism intuition that could break it apart into all the colors, that would be a great shortcut. Oh, God. I've got to get to sleep. I keep dreaming about Molotov cocktails and waking up, and there's nobody there. And that's great, because if I dreamt about them and woke up in a room full of like monks in robes that were holding like Molotov cocktails above their heads, I would be scared fucking shitless, wouldn't you?